One, check.
Good morning. I'm Dan DeRosa with 19 News, coming to you again from our digital desk. We are going to talk about school levies. Columbus lawmakers down at the State House for a while now have been trying to address skyrocketing property taxes, especially when it comes to older Ohioans who are on fixed incomes. And you see skyrocketing property tax rates go up. It's putting a lot of people in bad positions. And a new bill was just introduced this week by Ohio State Senator Andrew Brenner. An interesting idea. Some school districts have emergency levies, replacement levies, continuation levies, and people are paying a lot of money for their school districts. But what if we get rid of all of the individual levies and instead replace it with one flat rate? And that flat rate would be calculated at 20 mil. Now, I can tell you there's other legislation that says when it comes to levies, they're too complicated. When people go to the ballot boxes, what is 20 mil? What does that mean to me? So they're also trying to clean that up. But for the course of our conversation, a 20 mil valuation is basically about $700 per $100,000 value of your home. At the same time, because some districts are already way above that, the part of this Senate Bill 93 would also increase what you're paying in sales tax across the state of Ohio, increase it by 1.75 percentage points. So for a frame of reference, here in Cuyahoga County, we already have the highest sales tax rate in the entire state. It would bump that up from 8 to 9.75. So for every $10 you spend, you're looking at a hefty sales tax. We're going to bring in now Senator Brenner. He is a Republican from Delaware. He is the sponsor of this bill. Senator, thanks for joining us today. We know it's busy down there in Columbus.
Thank you for having me on today, Dan. I appreciate it.
Let's talk about this idea. It's a new idea. What is behind it? Let's just start there. What's the basic idea here?
Well, we've had a lot of discussion of like the haves and have-nots for school districts, community schools, and we've had a lot of people that have had concerns about the Ed Choice scholarships. So my idea is let's go and fix those issues, but let's also do what we can to try to lower the property taxes for everybody, especially those on fixed income or low and middle income families who can no longer afford their property taxes. The idea of increasing the sales tax would be then to offset those major cuts in property taxes. The sales tax obviously would be paid for by everybody, including people who come into Ohio. So this would be a tax where other people would be contributing to our schools. And what this would do is the sales tax portion that you mentioned that would increase, that increase would be solely dedicated to our public schools. The state of Ohio would also, under my proposal, assume all the local school district debt. So local jurisdictions would no longer be able to put a levy on the ballot. They would have to run based on their cash flows. But by assuming the debt, school districts would also be free to come up with memorandums of understanding and work with fellow districts, potentially merge districts. But all those decisions would be made at the local level by local school districts. So they would have the say as to how they want to then manage their district going forward. The other part, it is 120 mil statewide property tax. So, you've got some effective millage in the 50, plus mil range in many areas. And you've got areas like Cleveland, which because of property valuations, it's hard to raise any money. So that, it's hard for those schools. So this way, the state would still use kind of like the formula for how dollars are distributed. That would include, kids that are economically disadvantaged or have disabilities or gifted and talented. It would also distribute the funds from a transportation standpoint based on the number of students in the district. But I regionalized the school transportation so that they're put underneath education service centers who cover whole regions, and it would be a regional transportation system, not individual school districts. This economies of scale and so forth should reduce cost, but additionally, it'll probably require all schools to try to synchronize their bell schedules a bit so that you have better coordination and more efficiencies within the transportation system.
Yeah, another interesting portion of this sort of going to a centralized busing instead of every single school district needing to have buses. That's interesting. I got to tell you, I'm going to be devil's advocate. This has got to scare the heck out of every superintendent, especially those school districts who are above the 20 mil range. Have you been hearing from school districts already, and what do you expect their response to be?
Well, interestingly, I had a discussion with many of them back in the spring while we were working on the budget, and I think many of them would be open to this. There may be some that it might be an issue, but I think right now, given the fact that we in the State House are looking at various issues around property taxes, including inside millage, I know the House has several bills that they're working on and I think are going to pass today. I think they're looking at, hey, what is an alternative that might work? And I think given the fact that there are so many people on fixed income and so many people that turn down levies, knowing that they're going to have a steady stream of money coming from the state, knowing the exact amounts, knowing what the tax rates are, they'll have a level of predictability that they don't have right now. If you have a school district that's in trouble financially or, close to it, they may try to pass a levy and then not pass it, in which case then they run into severe problems and then have to undergo financial distress with the state of Ohio. I think this will be something where they'll be able to reduce those uncertainties going forward. So there is a trade-off. Yes, some districts may not receive perceptually the same amount of money as they used to, but I think given the way the system is set up, this would be a lot more fair system. And it's a system that I believe the proposal meets the DeRolf decision from back in 1997, including the decisions that were passed in the early 2000s. So this is, I think, a proposal which is fair to all concerned, so to speak. I'm a Rotarian, and I think this is one that would be fair and beneficial to all concerned. So, I think in the long run, this is a system that will work more efficiently than what we have now. It'll help taxpayers out, and it will also fund the schools the way they should be.
So you just introduced this week. What type of support do you have already from fellow lawmakers, and what are you anticipating? What is the road for this bill?
Well, thank you. We basically, I've had a placeholder bill this year, but we just introduced essentially the substitute bill, which is this bill. Yesterday in Finance Committee, it's been introduced, has not been accepted yet. I think legislators want time to review it and analyze it. I will say the responses I received from both sides of the aisle yesterday were very positive. I think people are at least appreciative that I'm trying to think outside the box and come up with an alternative plan that is beneficial to all the schools, and I think is fair to everybody.
It is an interesting plan, to say the least. I've been watching legislation dealing with property taxes and trying to come up with an answer to get people some relief. As you just heard from Senator Brenner, this one is definitely outside the box. Senator, certainly appreciate the time today. Good luck down in Columbus.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, take care. That's going to wrap up our discussion, again, very early on in the process of Senate Bill 93. So we'll track this and all the other legislation we follow down in Columbus. Our noon news is just about to kick off on Channel 19. And then, of course, look for 3.5 hours of news and first alert weather when we start our broadcast at 3 o'clock on Channel 19. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Have a great afternoon.